For our final story, we turn to Kenya, to the Maaasai Mara. It's one of the world's most famous wildlife reserves. It's a place known for its open plains and the Great Migration. That's the annual movement of animals across Kenya and Tanzania. But today, the Maaasai Mara is making news for a very different reason. A new luxury lodge has opened inside the reserve. It is run by the Ritz-Carlton, the global luxury hotel brand, and it's triggered a row. The location of the hotel has caused a legal fight. A court case in Kenya says the lodge sits on a migration route. It wants the property to be demolished. The case also questions how the project was approved in the first place. It asks why it received an exemption from rules that limit new development in the region. The authorities in fact dispute these claims, but the row has now put the reserve under the spotlight. Here's a report.
You may never have been to Kenya, but you have almost certainly heard of the Maaasai Mara. It is one of the most famous wildlife reserves in the world. It is part of a larger ecosystem shared with Tanzania's Serengeti. It is the stage of the Great Migration, often called the greatest show in nature. Every year, more than 1 million wildebeest, zebra, and other animals move across these plains. It is a magnet for filmmakers and photographers, and a once-in-a-lifetime destination for travelers. But today, the Maaasai Mara is facing a new controversy. And at the center of it is a new Ritz-Carlton Safari Lodge. It has opened on the banks of the Sand River. It has 20 luxury tents and peak season rates that can exceed $3,500 per person per night. On paper, it promises high-end tourism in the heart of the migration. But that same promise has triggered resistance, because community groups say the true cost of this development may be far higher. And that concern has now reached the courts. A lawsuit has been filed in Kenya. It argues that the lodge sits on a route used by wildebeest and zebras to cross the Sand River. It says animals have turned back from the new development, and it asks the court to demolish the lodge and restore the land. The lawsuit also questions how the project was approved. It points to a 2023 management plan for the Maaasai Mara. That plan calls for no new tourism accommodation until 2032. Yet the Ritz-Carlton project received an exemption. And conservationists say this dispute is only one part of a much wider problem. The Maaasai Mara covers about 580 square miles, and they warn that pressure on the reserve is rising every year. During the peak migration months, the strain is hard to miss. Safari vehicles crowd every major river crossing, and they disrupt the very wildlife spectacle that draws travelers here. Researchers say the number of camps and lodges in the Maaasai Mara has surged. They list a rise from 95 in 2012 to 175 last year. Many of them sit along rivers, and riverbanks are the places where migrating herds try to cross. But the developers and the authorities reject that criticism. They say the Ritz-Carlton Lodge is not inside a core migration route. They cite an environmental audit, saying the nearest major wildebeest crossing is several miles away. They say all required approvals were obtained and that it would get economic benefits. Court documents reportedly estimate $25 million in tax revenue over 6 years. The documents also show it will support local communities, including Maasai workers, and that is what makes this dispute so complex. Kenya depends on tourism. It needs investment, it wants high-value visitors, and global brands help drive that demand. But Kenya also needs the migration to survive. It needs open corridors for wildlife and the ecosystem to stay healthy. It also needs the Maasai people to feel protected on their ancestral land. So, two priorities, both essential. Both are competing for the same space. A court will reportedly hear the case in December. Its ruling will decide the fate of one lodge. But the larger question remains. What kind of Maaasai Mara will Kenya allow in the years ahead?
I was a revolutionary. I became a ruler. I claimed to protect my people. I terrorized them instead. I built palaces. I started wars. I lost everything. Some called me a defender of Arab pride. History remembers me as a dictator.